let's go to the next slide and drill down on a couple of these. And like I said, I know a lot about the business development side because you and I have worked on that, weekly for 4 years, right? And so, I'm kind of looking at these and I can see how this applies to you. But let's talk about like what changes did you make in the way that you sold? Let's talk about reinventing business development first. And the biggest thing that I saw in you was that you made a fundamental change in the way you thought about how people buy and therefore how you have to sell.
Well, and I think, and again, anybody who's had success in sales probably knows this as well, but you have to have a sales methodology that everybody can work from together. You have to be speaking the same language. So for us, that was really focusing on, the 6 pillars that we learned through, Michael and the SDP, and it gave us a way to organize our thoughts and make sure that we're all speaking the same way. And what that did then is that then helped us develop a sales plan, develop a marketing plan. Those are things that we never had, 3 or 4 years ago, where annually we sit down at the beginning of the year and we say, okay, this is our plan for the whole year. These are the objectives we want to achieve, and this is how we're going to get there. And then going back and periodically reassessing. I mean, in 2020 with COVID, we came back and we took a look at our 2020 sales plan and our 2020 marketing plan, and we made adjustments to COVID. But I can tell you those adjustments were a lot easier to make within the framework of a larger plan that was already there, instead of just trying to figure out how to randomly adjust to all of that. And then I mentioned it briefly, but not only having a marketing plan, but actually having somebody in a marketing role. That's one of the other roles that we defined earlier, is somebody that's in charge of marketing, and making sure that that person has very clear goals, has a marketing plan, and then spending a lot of time to understand what marketing actually gets back. We are so focused on you want things to look good. You want that to be consistent with your message and your brand. But at the end of the day, you also have to be able to focus on what actually works. And just because I don't think something's going to reach a particular audience doesn't matter. If it reaches the audience, it reaches the audience no matter what I think. And I had to let go of that. And then the other part of it, as you say in the bullet here, is peers. I'm probably one of the biggest advocates for peer learning that you're going to find out there. That's one of the things I did early in the business, just to kind of learn how to be an MSP, but then we accelerated it with people around sales, around marketing, around service delivery, around project management, around all of those things, so that each different person in these different roles that I talked about earlier has other people that have roles defined similar to them, and they have people they can bounce questions off of, people that can provide support to them. Somebody's always going to have a better way of doing something. Maybe you're able to offer that to some people sometimes. More often than not for us, we get it from a lot of other people, and it makes us all better. Fortunately for us in our industry, there's a lot of organizations that are in non-competitive geographies that are very happy to share best practices and support each other.
Yeah, just as I'm thinking as you're talking, 2 things come to mind, 3 things come to mind, actually. The first one is the biggest change I noticed in you is because on our weekly meetings, we typically talk through the sales opportunities that you have that particular week, right? And the change you made from having no clue where you were at in the sales process with somebody to now having a very definitive view on the quality of an opportunity, as well as what's the right next thing to do to kind of either move it forward or disqualify it. You've come light years. I think that was the biggest change I saw in you, right? So go ahead.
I suspected you were going to say that. I knew that's where you were going when you started going down this path. That, yeah, Jay, you were completely clueless. You had no idea what was in the pipeline. You didn't even have a pipeline. You just, whatever landed. And now today we actually have a pretty good idea of what's coming.
Yeah, and I think the second thing that there's certain kind of operating metrics that we have. We didn't put metrics in here for sales and all that stuff, but it's knowing that the only thing that matters is how many qualified discovery meetings you have. Like literally in marketing or selling, that's the ultimate and frankly solely metric that matters in a sense. And having you focus in on getting the other stuff out of your brain in terms of it mattering was actually a big change in you too. Go ahead.
The other part of it too, and this all combines the metrics and the peers and all of that, is, there was a time where actually, we'd close a deal here or there and we'd think, hey, we're doing pretty well. We thought we were actually pretty good, until we actually started measuring what we were achieving, setting goals for what we wanted to achieve based on what we were seeing from peers in our group, and realized that we could actually achieve so much more. And I think that was the other thing that was really valuable is unless you measure what you're doing and then see what's possible, you don't realize how much more you can actually push yourself.
As just the last point I wanted to make in this section too, was we had a meeting just yesterday with all the guys in STP. And what's interesting too is it's like-minded peers is on the business development side is important too, because most 90% of the MSPs in the industry are not producing these kind of results. So
Right.
being in that upper 10% with the other upper 10%, I don't know what you got at that meeting yesterday, but the fact that so many, particularly in COVID times, so many people are still growing at like 20% and all that is a testament to, you know, the will and the spirit and the kind of learning that you guys invested in over the last 4 years that's still paying off. So getting in the group with the right peers is really important as well.
It is, absolutely.